man. Becoming part of the asphalt was quite a major climb. It was like a weight loss miracle. The resurrected man had a better plan. Breathed his life into a salt miracle. When I was just in, while old Mr. D, you can't do a thing. Your power nailed to a tree, like a wasp with on its ass. You're just a black and gold free. Should've heard it coming, the BizJet 103. Used my spine as a runway as I jogged along the beach. Monk and train were grooving in my ears. The resurrected man had a better plan. Crucified my sin, broke my deathly fears. When I was just still, wily old Mr. D, you can't do a thing. Your power nailed to a tree, like a wasp with on its ass. You're just a black and gold flea. When I was just still, wily old Mr. D, you can't do a thing. Your power nailed to a tree, like a wasp with on its ass. You're just a black and gold flea. When I was just still, wily old Mr. D, you can't do a thing. Your power nailed to a tree, like a wasp with on its ass. You're just a black and gold flea.
Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Sunday Night Live. I'm Johnny from johnnylipsonstudios.co.uk, and I hope everybody is having a fun and fantastic Sunday. I've had a very, very fun and fantastic weekend. Spent the weekend over at my parents' place across the river in Fife. My parents had a gig at the Ecology Centre in Burnt Island. It was their 20th anniversary, so we were there, and we played a really great show, and there was about 1,100 people there, which was really, really cool. And it's a local charity that my dad works with. He's an environmental scientist and extremely knowledgeable, so he helps run and manage the centre and its surrounding several hundred acres of grounds I think they have there. And he does a great job, and he's a great guitar player and vocalist, and my mother sings and is a comedian. And I was there as well playing bass, so it was great fun. It was a really great weekend, and we stayed over, and we came back about 3-4 hours ago, and it's just after 5 minutes past midnight here. So I'm looking forward to spending time with you guys, because you guys are awesome. So what are we going to talk about tonight? Well, I've got a couple of things that I thought that we could talk about, that we could discuss, and they're not necessarily technical. A lot of the times, you know, on Sunday Night Live, we talk about aspects of songwriting or arranging or production, or we talk about EQ, or we talk about compression and those kind of things. And certainly, if you guys have got questions on those kind of things, that is great. We can get into that, absolutely. But I kind of wanted to talk about motivation and being motivated to get to work in your studio. However much time it is in the day or the week that you're able to get in your studio, making the most of that time, maximizing that time. So that's kind of what I want to talk about, particularly if, you know, time is something that is really limited to you, and, you know, maybe on a particular given evening you can only get into your studio for a couple of hours. Well, that's 2 hours. And, you know, you might think 2 hours, gosh, that's not enough time to be creative. That's not enough time to get a song written and recorded and everything else. And so you would kind of sit there going, well, I don't know what to do. You know, I haven't got enough time. What am I going to do? How am I going to get this going? And, you know, and it can be a real battle. And you can get to the end of those 2 hours going, well, you know, I didn't really achieve very much there. And that's my, you know, that could be, for some of you, that may well be all the studio time you get in a week. And, you know, you may well for the rest of that week just kind of like be frustrated because you feel like that those 2 hours were completely wasted. It was a wasted opportunity for being creative in your studio. So that's what we're going to talk about. How do you make the most of those 2 hours? Even if it's, you know, even if it is as short as 2 hours, you have to do a few different things. There are different approaches that you could take. One is you could have a particular target, a particular thing that you want to achieve in that particular session, and it might well be that over the course of several sessions in your studio you have a much bigger overall objective, a much larger goal, and you break it down into those. Okay, I have 2 hours a week in which I can get into my studio, and I want to have a whole song written, recorded, mixed and mastered. Ultimately, that's my ultimate goal. So then you work backwards, is what I would suggest you do. You start with, how long is it going to take to master this one song? And you may well say it may well take, you know, the full 2 hour session. Great, that's 1 2 hour session already fully booked. You are going to be mastering your song. Okay, take a step back. How long is it going to take you to mix the song? And that's a big question. It depends upon how many tracks you have, how much you've got going on in your mix, how busy is it? You know, is there going to be a lot of automation to do? Is there going to be, you know, lots of maybe side chaining to do to get things ducking out of the way sometimes? Is there going to be, you know, lots of those kind of things going on? Because that could take a session all on its own. Just writing the automation, doing those kind of sidechain compression things may well take up the 2 hours. Okay, great. That's 1 2 hour session booked. It's going to take you 2 hours to do the automation and the sweetening. Okay, take another step back. And that's how you do it. You keep taking a step back and a step back and a step back until you're at that point where you're going, okay, now I'm at the now I've moved backwards in time, and I've got all the mixing sessions booked and the mastering session booked. Now I can focus on what do I need to do to get this song recorded. And maybe at this point you haven't even written the song yet. You're just thinking about how many sessions it's going to take to record your song. So, you know, think about, you know, how many tracks is this song going to have? I mean, because surely you've got some kind of rough idea what this song is going to be like. you know, you've maybe got some kind of germinal ideas, hopefully, already, then you can maybe map out that basic idea. It's going to take me a 1 hour session to do, you know, the three of, you know, it's maybe going to take a full 2 hour session to do all the guitar parts. And that's maybe 3 or 4 different guitar parts. And then it's going to take me, you know, keyboard parts. It's going to take me a couple of sessions maybe. So then you keep taking a step back until you get to writing. Okay, how long is it going to take me to write this song? Well, how long does it take, you know, how long's a piece of string? Might be your question at this point. So instead of making, you know, the whole thing of songwriting abstract and say, well, when's the inspiration going to strike? You know, how long, you know, how long, and that really is the question, how long is a piece of string? Then, you know, you break it down into small chunks at that point. Okay, how long is it going to take me to write a verse? How long is it going to take me to write a chorus? And you set that time aside so that, you know, that session is booked. This session, I'm going to write verse 1. I'm going to use up the full 2 hours to write a verse. And if by the end of the first hour I've got my whole verse, great, then I can move on to the chorus. You know, don't go, okay, that's the objective achieved, then I'll wait till the next session, which I've booked in, to do the chorus. No. If you've achieved an objective early in the session, start borrowing from the other session and go, great, I can do the chorus bit now. And so if you break things down into small bite-sized amounts and have them fully scheduled, you can manage your creativity. I'm trying to remember who the songwriter was, but there was a songwriter who you know, who was asked, you know, how do you go about writing a song? You know, and he says, well, I get up at 8:30 in the morning and I go to my studio and I'm in my studio at 9 o'clock in the morning. And that's what I do. And he does that every single day. He's up at 8:30 in the morning. He's in the studio at 9 a.m. And, you know, by the end of the working day, he's hopefully got a song or 2 or 3. And sometimes he'll just spend the whole day in his studio, and by the end of it, he's got 8 songs and he's ready to cut an album. You know, so it's not a case of waiting for inspiration to strike, waiting for the muse to wake up and get active and get going. Sometimes you just need to book it. You just need to schedule it and say, this is what I'm going to achieve, and this is when I'm going to achieve it by, and have a target in mind. At this particular time, on this particular date, I'm going to release a song. And then you work backwards from that until you get to your starting point. So you start with the finish and you work all the way back. And that will help motivate you to get to work, rather than just sitting in your studio going, I don't know what to do. You know, you've got all the skills. You know what to do. You know how to work Studio One. You know how to put chords together. You know how to put words together. You know all the basic building blocks you need to get a song happening, to get a song going. You know how to build effectively. You're a builder who knows how to build. So instead of going, I don't know, just book it. Just decide, on X date, I am going to release a song. And that's it. That's set in stone. It's marked in on your calendar. It is a deadline you cannot pass. Now, here's a really good way to make sure that you meet that deadline. You tell somebody and say to that person, I'm going to release a song fully mixed and mastered, and I'm going to put it up on my SoundCloud page on X date. And you say to this person, can you help me make sure I get there? Just, you know, ask me how it's going. And, you know, as I get to that, close to that deadline, you know, ask me a little bit more often how it's going and remind me of this deadline. Hey, you said on X date you're going to release this song. Are you close to it? Are you getting there? And what you'll find is with the help of people around you, keeping you accountable, keeping you in check, you'll make that deadline, and, you know, on that particular date, you'll be ready to upload that song to SoundCloud and tell everybody about it. So, having me just said that's what you should do to help motivate you and to help get you going in the studio, I think you just need to just get to work on a song and upload it on a certain date. I'm going to actually do this as well. Okay, I'm going to lead by example. And we are on the, well, for me, it's just flipped over to September 10th. You guys haven't, if you're in the United States, you haven't got there yet. You've got another 6 hours or so before you cross over into September 10th. For me, I'm already there. It's midnight here. So it's September 10th. And right now, in front of everybody on YouTube, and how many people do we have watching? We've got 16 people. In front of you 16 people and anybody else that watches this live stream, either now or on replay, I'm going to announce that I'm going to release a single on the 10th of, where are we, September? On the 10th of December. 10th of December 2018, I'm going to release a single. It might be a Christmas song, it might not be. I haven't decided yet, but that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to schedule things. I'm going to work it backwards so that I know what I've got to do and when I've got to do it to make sure that it happens. So that on 10th of December, I'm announcing to the world, here it is, and the song gets uploaded to SoundCloud and to my Nimbit page, which is where you'll be able to buy it. So that's what I'm going to do. 10th of December, 2018, I will release a single. All right, so hopefully you guys will join me in this little challenge, and hopefully around about this time in December we will all be releasing a single. That would be really cool if a lot of you could join me. I'm going to try as much as I can document this whole process right here on my YouTube channel, because I think this would be fun to do. I've not done anything like this before, ever. I've seen my good friend Joe Gilder do this several times. And for him, it's been really successful. So I'm hoping for me, it will be just as successful. And whether successful or not, you're going to see it all happen right here on YouTube. You're going to see mistakes that I make along the way. You're going to see struggles that I might have with lyrics, struggles I might have with rhymes, chord changes, melody, changing my mind about instrumentation. You're going to see all of that happen. And you're going to see how I solve problems at every phase of production through songwriting and all the processes involved in that. And then recording, you're going to see me mess up my piano solos or whatever it might be. And you're going to see me mess up my lead vocal and eventually get it right. And you're going to see you're going to see me mix it, and then you're going to see me master it, and then I will do a video where I actually literally upload it to Nimbit, ready for everybody to go get. Okay, so that's my challenge. Hopefully you guys will join in, and that would be really cool. If you do decide you're going to join in, let us know in the chat here, wherever the chat is. It's over there somewhere. Let us know in the chat and in comments below as well. That'd be very cool. And let's just have some fun with this. All right, so that's my talking point. We're over and done with that. So, and that took us about 15 minutes. That's cool. So that for me is my little bit about motivation and how I'm going to deal with it, because I know sometimes I can sit in the studio and go, it's fine when I'm working on client material. If I'm working with like my one of my clients, a guy called Pete, working on his record at the moment. He's from Hong Kong. Well, he's from Scotland originally, and then he went out to Hong Kong. He was based out there for 5 or 6 years. And so half of his album, I think actually all of the album was recorded in Hong Kong in a studio there. But he's now moved back here to Edinburgh. And so he's been attending some of the mix sessions whilst I've been working on his record. So, I'm very motivated when it comes to working with him and his songs. And I've just finished a record with another client of mine called James Gittins, and he's just released his record, which is a house kind of dancey kind of record. totally way out of my league, but we did it and it worked out pretty well. I've never done a dance record in my life, but there we go. I've just done one. And it worked out pretty well. He's happy. He's very, very happy with it. And so far, my client Pete is pretty happy with the mixing that I'm doing on his record. So, you know, I've got all that all scheduled out. My client stuff, I schedule out, no trouble. I know exactly what I'm going to be doing tomorrow morning. I'm going to be working on one of my songs, one of Pete's songs in the morning, and I'm going to be working on catching up with video making because I'm about 3 months behind because of moving and everything else. So I'm about 3 months behind doing that. So that's all kind of all happening. I know exactly what song I'm working on tomorrow morning, and I know what video I'm going to be shooting in the afternoon. And then Tuesday, I know exactly what I'm doing. So I've got my whole week mapped out. But then when it comes to my own work, it's all a little bit different. When I book my own sessions, it can just be a case of, hey, I don't have any client work on, so I just sit and think, okay, time to be creative and trying to, you know, this is my little slot because I might get swamped with more client work. So this is my little moment where I can work on my stuff. And sometimes those sessions can be unproductive. So really for me, it's the same approach. I've got to actually write in the calendar, write it in Google Calendar, which is what me and my wife use. This is when a record or a song is going to be released, and then I work back until I arrive at the start point. And my objective then is to make sure that each one of those sessions is booked and that I actually do what each session is for. And that just helps me, you know, you guys, you know, because I'm full time, you guys probably go, well, you've got loads of time. You can just sit in the studio all day. Well, yeah, I could. But I know that for a lot of you, that's not the case. You know, for a lot of you, you've got limited time because you have full-time jobs. And I get that. I totally understand that. So, you know, a deadline like what I've just set out is, which, you know, is just like 3 months away. For me, that may well be quite achievable because, you know, I'm full-time. I can work in the studio all day, every day. But I know for you guys, it might not be quite so easy. So, you know, it's not going to be a hard and fast deadline. So if you want to do it and use that deadline as a way of focusing your attention and making you work faster and making you work harder so you get better results, then go for it. You know, I would say, you know, everybody, you know, shoot for that 10th of December. And if you get there, you get there. If you don't, it's okay. And, you know, that goes for me too. I'm aiming for it. That's what I want to do. I want to have it out by 10th of December. But if I don't get there, that's okay as well. But, you know, it's okay to fail. It's how you get up again that's the important thing. So anyway, there we go. That's motivation. So I hope that this little thing is helpful, and I hope it motivates you to get to work and sets that, you know, creative juices going and the creative spark going. So I hope that really works for you guys. All right, let's get to your questions. So I'm going to go and have a look at the chat because I haven't said hello to anybody, which is very rude of me. Sorry about that. Let's go and see who is here. We've got 18 people here, which is nice. I think it was Labor Day, I think, last time, so we didn't really have too many people here. But let's go and up to the top of the chat and let's see who we have. Dooley is here. Dan Soul is here. Bobby Booth. No show is complete without Bobby Booth. And Diego is here. And Max 1651 is here. He says one sweet tune. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I didn't really tell you what that was, did I? I probably should have. That song was called You Can't Do a Thing. And it's from an album that I released in 2013 called Swings on Roundabouts. It's kind of out of print now, unfortunately. So, unfortunately, I can't remaster it or anything because the master tapes are somewhat, shall we say, lost. Because this record was done in an old studio which no longer exists, sadly. And in the process of all of that happening, the master tapes for this record have gone missing. So I'm hoping that one day we will actually come across the master tapes, and I might actually be able to do a digital remaster of it. So yeah. And maybe if I can actually get the multi-track files, I might even remix the record. Because the mixes were okay. Yeah, not great. They were okay. I think probably, now kind of like a few years down the line, I could probably do better. In fact, yeah, I could definitely do better. But anyway, it's called You Can't Do a Thing, and the song is about, it's actually about it's each verse is a separate story, and it's essentially about death. And I thought it'd be quite good fun to write a song about death and ways of dying and put it to a 4-to-the-floor shuffle beat. My warped sense of humor. So each one is kind of like a bizarre manner in which somebody dies. And it was a fun song to write. And then basically kind of like the whole premise being that, where now is your sting, O death? Because for me, because what I believe in, death has no sting and it has no hold over me. So that was kind of the point of view that song was coming from. But I did a little research and found some newspaper stories of really, really bizarre ways in which 3 individuals died, and thought it'd be quite fun to kind of write a silly song about that. So that's what that was. And maybe over the course of the next few live streams, if you guys are up for it, maybe I'll play a few more songs from that record, if you like it. So who else do we have? We have She Studios. That's my good friend Sheila, and she is here. And White L is here. Says hello, everybody. And Unice43 is here. Excellent. I'm just going to scroll down a little bit more. I'm using a laptop to do this, so it's a little bit tricky. Dan Sol says, hey Johnny, can you come out to play? Oh, right, okay. Sorry, song was on my mind. Bobby says, usual inspiration comes to you when you're out of the studio. Yeah, sometimes it does, actually. Sometimes inspiration for writing a song comes outside of a studio experience. Like, for example, that song, You Can't Do a Thing. That came from reading newspaper articles and just looking at I do that sometimes. Sometimes I'm thinking, I wonder if there are stories of weird things that have happened to people. And I look those things up on Google, and as I start reading, I find a really funny story and think, great, that's got beautiful, lots of material for a song. And so, those kind of things help. Or I find a funny story or a funny particular person or group of people, and I think, hey, I can maybe make a composite character out of those group of people. And there's a funny little story, there's a funny little quirk, and I can write a song about that. So yeah, sometimes it comes from outside the studio. And it's at points like that, this is where having a phone that has a voice recorder on it is really helpful. And pretty much every phone does nowadays, but or a notepad, something like that, where you can just write something down that just crosses your mind, or a song title that you think, oh wow, that would be a really great title for a song for something. And you just get it down on paper. Don't think, oh, I'll write that down later because I'll remember that. That's brilliant. You won't. Guaranteed, 30 minutes after you've thought of that great idea, it's gone. So, write those things down. And then you can bring those things into the studio and go for it. Let's see. Sheila deleted a message that she said. Don't know what she said, unfortunately. Common Ground. You are new to my show, I believe. Common Ground. And you say, totally agree. I'm good at writing partial songs, but have to really commit to get the majority of them finished. You know what? I struggled with that for years. I've been writing songs since I was like 9-10 years old. And for years, I would write bits and pieces of songs and never finish them. And, going into my, my teens and early 20s, I was just like, I have got tapes full of little excerpts of songs, little bits here and there, little bits, or I've got disc, back in the day when you would, save things to a floppy disk. I had I had a box about this big, full of floppy disks, and they were all full. They were absolutely jam-packed, and they just had little bits of songs here and there. I would start a song and then just never get back to it. I'd go, yeah, it's okay. Yeah, it's all right. Oh, but this is another great idea. And, you know, so I'd run off into another idea, and then that would peter out, and then I'd, you know. And so I'd end up with about 300 unfinished songs. So I know exactly how that feels. And I think I must have been 23, 24 when the idea occurred to me, hey, I should just commit myself to just finishing a song. Just one song. I should commit myself to finishing that one song. So I did. And it was great. I actually wrote one full song all the way through, and it sounded great. And, you know, and I was just thinking, why didn't I do that all those years before? You know, there's 10, 15 or so years before of all of those unfinished songs. The good thing is, with all of those unfinished songs, I can recycle them. I've got a great chorus here, a great verse here, or a great set of chord changes here, a great set of chord changes here. I can sellotape them together. I can band-aid them together. And I mean, some of my songs off of my last EP, Belonging to Tomorrow, which was released in 2016, some of those are actually conglomerates of different unfinished songs from 20, 30 years before. And I just kind of put them together and finished them. So I know exactly how you feel about not finishing stuff. Let's see. Greetings to all fans of Lipsham. Thank you, Woodbeast. You're very kind to me, my friend. Thank you. She Studios says, okay, that's one day after my birthday. A new song will be a nice symbolic gift. Absolutely. That's a great idea. I love that. Diego says, does it count if I've already written the song but just haven't produced it yet? Yes, it certainly does count. So the idea is when you get to that 10th December target, you are uploading it to the world. So yes, if you've not even started recording it yet, you've now got 3 months to actually record it and mix it and master it. So there you go. Yes, it does count. Let's see. Will it be like the toilet paper song or the appliance handbook song? The toilet paper song. That was hilarious. Improvised sort of little 40-second song that Johnny and I did in a Songwriting Simplified episode. Must be about 4 or 5 months ago now that we did that. Or the appliance handbook song. You know what? That was a little challenge. Basically, it was something that I remember having had to have done when I was at university, at drama classes at university, because I studied acting when I was at university. I did music, and I did music, and I did music production, and I did drama when I was at university. And drama classes, you know, we had to do a lot of improvised things, and one of the improvised things was turning like the first paragraph of a particular page of a particular book, and the page number was picked at random and the book was picked at random, and then you had to sing an improvised song based on those words. And so, you know, that's where that challenge came out of. And I have heard some of the songs that you guys have already done if you've taken part in that little challenge. I've heard some of those already. They're really, really good. They're really good fun, which is the idea. The idea was it was meant to be fun. You could have a laugh with it. You could make it as hilarious as you wanted. You didn't need to necessarily go all kind of serious about it. Oh, what if it's wrong? No. There was never any right or wrong about that particular challenge. It was always about, hey, this is something that's fun. You know, that's why I picked appliance handbooks, because it's going to be bizarre, and that was the whole idea. You know, you could write a screamo death metal, you know, 90-second song if you really wanted to about a blender, or a hand whisk or whatever it might be. All of that was totally allowed. And by the way, that challenge is still open if you want to take part. If you haven't done so and you're thinking, yes, this is something I'd quite like to do, yeah, you can still do it. It's over at the... There are two places you can go and take part. You can either take part on the Studio One Songwriting for Studio One group, the HST Songwriting for Studio One group, or you can go to the Songwriting Simplified page and submit your song there. And it'd just be really great to be able to listen to all of them and for everybody to listen to everybody else's. Johnny and I will probably do a Songwriting Simplified show where we may even play one or two of your songs, and yeah, we'll just, you know, we'll have a lot of fun with it. Let's see. Gonna go back down the list. Very helpful, says Dwight. Thank you. Just Bob says, sorry I'm late. You know what? Nobody is late. Just Bob says, I'm loving the Faderport 8. Yeah, the Faderport 8 is one heck of a device. It's really, really cool. And it's won awards as well. So that's equally cool. And I'm trying to scroll down here unsuccessfully. Okay, let's see. Let's see if I can find some questions, shall we? And if I have missed your questions, please do repost them in the chat. Let's see. George Mateos. George, good to see you. He says, can you convert a drum loop into MIDI using third-party applications, then open it into Studio One Artist and explode it? Can you convert a drum loop into MIDI? If it's an audio drum loop, you're gonna have a little bit of a difficulty with that, unless the drum loop that you have is multi-track. Like, if you've got one of the loops from Looploft, some of those bundles at Looploft are multi-track. And if they're multi-track loops, then you can probably use Melodyne to convert each track into MIDI. And then maybe you could, having converted it to MIDI, you could then maybe assign it to a drum pad in Impact or something like that. Or, I don't know, maybe Contact or something else. It's going to be a little bit of a tricky process, but less so if you've already got the multi-tracks. You can certainly convert those. That should be easier. But if it's a stereo file, like for example, if I were to go to this screen here, and if you look up here, I've got the Matt Chamberlain drums here. This is a stereo drum file. If I solo up the drums and play them, you should be able to hear these. Okay, so this is a stereo drum loop. It's going to be pretty tricky to break that out into separate parts, if not impossible, I would suggest. So I think unless you've got the multi-track files, you're going to struggle. And I don't think it's necessarily going to be possible, I'm afraid. But maybe somebody else may know better, but certainly I don't think you're going to get a stereo file into MIDI that's going to be something that something like Impact is going to be able to detect. And certainly trying to do it with MIDI, you're going to have like the full version of Melodyne or something like that, Melodyne Studio or whatever the flagship version of Melodyne is. If you've got that, you might be able to do it, because you might be able to convert, you know, several audio parts within this stereo file into MIDI. That might be possible if you've got that. But if you don't have that, then yes, you're going to struggle. And I suggest that you probably will find it not possible, I'm afraid. Sorry about that. Just Bob says, I have a 49 key MIDI keyboard and need to switch between low, mid, and higher areas of the keyboard. Is there any way to group two of them together, like lower with middle? Is there any way to group two of them together? That is a good question. If you've got a 49 key keyboard, that's actually quite small. And what you're probably going to have to do is, I don't know what keyboard you have. And it would help if I knew that at least a little bit. And I'm, again, even if you do tell me, I may not be 100% familiar with it, but some of the smaller keyboards have like a paging button where you can page up to the next couple of octaves. You might be able to do something like that. Otherwise, you are probably going to have to use the transpose function on the keyboard to be able to shift up to the next octaves, if you like. So if you're doing like a lot of piano work on a 49 key keyboard, and you're wanting to be quite expansive across the keyboard, that's going to be tricky. You're probably going to have to record that in maybe 2 or 3 parts, and do some transposing on the keyboard or transposing in Studio One to make it work. But I don't think there is any way in which you can group those together, either on the keyboard or necessarily, I don't think you can do that in Studio One either, as far as I know. Let's see, scroll down a little bit more. Just Bob says you should try putting some of your unfinished songs together into one Bohemian Rhapsody type epic song. Well, there's an idea. There is definitely an idea. Well, here's the interesting thing about that song. Bohemian Rhapsody is essentially several songs combined together into one song. There's another song. Hang on a sec. Steely Dan's Asia is a song pretty much like that, where it's actually maybe, I think it's 3 songs. I think Donald and Walter said that it was 3 songs that they combined together to make the whole thing. It can be done really successfully, actually, just kind of amalgamating 3 songs in a kind of medley fashion, but without it being a medley, if you know what I mean. So yeah, you can do that, and it can work. Let's see. Need to scroll down again. Woodby says, Johnny, do not give Dooley ideas. Okay, I'm going to go down to the bottom. Diego says, I have an AudioBox USB and I want to record my keyboard with it. It doesn't accept line in, only mic and high Z. Would I damage it if I connect my keyboard line out? It will not, and I'll tell you why. See this guy here? This has 2 outputs. This has stereo outputs. For the purpose of doing my streams, I only have this in mono, so I only use 1 output, and I just plug straight into my USB into channel 2, and my mic is into channel 1 on that, and what you're hearing right now is the results, you know. It works just fine. The only thing you need to be careful about is not having the gain too high on the audio box, having the volume not too high on the keyboard. You get those balanced and you avoid that red clip light going off on the input of the audio box, you'll be fine. It works perfectly fine for me. I plug my bass, I plug my guitar, I plug this guy in directly to the audio box. No troubles. Works for me perfectly. So I don't think you're going to have a problem like that. Abbey Road Side 2. Not sure what that means, Dooley. Switch views. Yes, I know I should switch views. I've been on that screen for a long time and you can't see what I'm doing. So let's go back to there. So as I was saying, oh, I hate it when that happens. I've just inserted the marker in Studio One. Didn't want to do that. There we go. Okay, so I have this guy, my red keyboard, and this guy is plugged directly into my AudioBox USB into channel 2. And my mic is plugged in. This guy here is plugged into channel 1. And that's how you get to hear everything on the stream. And you just have to be careful not to turn it up too loud. Either at the keyboard or at the audio box. So you're going to have to, play about with the volumes a little bit until, everything is good. And you'll be fine. It works perfectly for me. It's a Casio, okay? Casio CTK. Yeah, I don't know anything about Casios. I think the last time I used a Casio was 1989, 1990. I think that was the last time I came across a Casio keyboard in a professional capacity. And so kind of what I know about those is going to be a little bit out of date, I'm afraid. So I don't know kind of what it has there. But yeah, if it's just got ordinary line outs on the keyboard, you should be okay. I shouldn't worry too much. But, if that red light is pegged, then, I would turn down the gain on the audio box and turn down the volume on the keyboard altogether and unplug. But you should be okay. I would start with the gain totally off on the audio box and totally off on the keyboard, and then kind of like gradually turn them both up until you hit that nice happy medium. And you can always monitor the input in Studio One to see how loud it's going into Studio One. That's easy enough to do. And you want to make sure that you're only coming in at about -12 dB anyway. So that would be my advice there. Just Bob says, with my fader port 8, can I assign a track, let's say track 15, to one of the faders on the fader port, or am I limited to tracks 1 to 7, as 8 is the main out? Good question. Unfortunately, I don't have the fader port 8. I only have the original classic fader port. Johnny Gibe has the fader port 8 and the fader port 16, which he's been a beta tester on both of those units. He would know more about that than I do, I'm afraid. But I would suggest that you probably could do that. I don't know for certain though, so I wouldn't want to give you bad information. So I would suggest that would be a question for Johnny on his show tomorrow, or send him a PM, and he would probably be able to help you answer that. We've got about 12 minutes left of the show, guys. And I would love to see some more questions. We've got 17 people still here, which is awesome. And everything looks good and hunky-dory. So anyone else got any more great questions? Because there's been some really good ones so far. I'm going to scroll up and make sure I haven't missed any. But if you've posted a question and I haven't got to it yet, then just please repost it until I get to it. Dan says you can use the bank button to get to that track. Yes, you can bank across. That's definitely one thing I do know about the fader ports, because it's the same on the Studio Lives. I've got the Studio Live Series 3 16, and if I end up with a session that has 30, 40, 50 tracks or more, I can bank across, I can page across. It works really, really well. So I imagine if I can do that on the Series 3 in DAW mode, then you should definitely be able to do that on the fader port 8 or the fader port 16. But as to whether you can assign your main out to a different track, I don't know. I don't know whether you can do that. I'd imagine you probably can, but I don't know. Just Bob says, thank you. Yep. Yeah, Just Bob, I don't have one. I would like to get my hands on one, but to be honest, whilst I have the Series 3 and DAW mode, yeah, I'm not really sure I entirely need it. But, you know, we'll have to see what happens. And, you know, who knows what's going to happen with the Faderport line as we go forward. I don't know. I mean, we have the new Faderport version 2, which kind of is an upgrade from the classic one, which I think brings the Faderport line kind of into completion a little bit. So you got, they all look the same. You know, the Faderport Classic kind of sticks out like a sore thumb a little bit because it's needed an upgrade, and it's finally got it with the Faderport 2018 or the Faderport version 2, whichever they're going to call it. I don't know which name they've given it. I don't know. And then you've got the 8, and then you've got the 16. Who knows what will happen in the future? Maybe there will be a 32. I don't know. I doubt it. But who knows? Who knows what the guys, the brain boxes over in Baton Rouge will come up with. One thing I do know is that their output for the last 18 months of products is prolific. It's ridiculous how many products that they've released over the last 18 months. So, who knows? You know, things seem to move very, very quickly over there. So, Diego says, have you tried the Studio One mobile app? It's just a controller. Yes, I do. I have the Studio One remote app. I have it on my phone, actually. One thing I did note immediately is that on your mobile phone, it's phenomenally fiddly because it's tiny, but that's because it's not really designed for a phone. It's designed for something like an iPad or a tablet or something like that. But I can get it to work on my phone. I just have to be very, 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 very precise, and it does work. You know, I can record, I can stop, I can play. And that's just about it, because anything else is just too fiddly on a phone. But certainly on an iPad or something like that, it works very, very well, and certainly works really well with Studio One 4, because they recently, I believe, updated it, so it works well with Studio One 4. Dan says, one tip for Bob. If you use your mouse and select, let's say, track 60 on Studio One, all you do to get to track 60 on the Faderport is push down on the jog wheel and your Faderport will jump to it. That's awesome. Great tip. Whoopi says Persona should release a signature Johnny Lipson Faderport. Yeah, right. Yeah, right, Whoopi. You're very kind. Thank you. I doubt that's going to happen. I think there's more likelihood of a Goldfish being the next president of the United States than there is of Presonus launching a Johnny Lipson signature Faderport. And you know what? If they actually say, "Hey, we're going to do that," I will gladly eat my shorts. So, and I'll do it live on Sunday Night Live if that happens. Okay? So there you go, Woodbeast. That's a deal, I hope. If they launch a Johnny Lipson signature Faderport device, after I've said what I've said, I will eat a pair of my shorts live on this show. With all the buttons labelled in Scottish. That's brilliant. And that's a deal. That's good. President Goldfish. Love it. Just Bob says, I heard Scotland has the world's highest alcohol content for beer. That's not entirely true, because we have to comply to UK and EU alcohol by volume limits. However, alcohol by volume limits do not apply to homebrew. So if you have a homebrew beer kit, you can make your beer as strong as you want it. I know, because I've done it. A long time ago, maybe probably 20 years ago, I made a beer that was 17%, which was very, very strong, but it was not harsh. It was smooth but strong. You know, you got to the bottom of your pint and you're just like, wow, I feel this. So no, we don't have the world's highest alcohol content for beer. As I say, for legal reasons, we can't do that. Same for whiskey. Whiskey is limited to 40% ABV. But that's not to say that, there aren't underground distillers who will make much stronger whiskey than that. But, it's not legal. So, but still, funny notion. I like it. A tutorial on beer making? Unlikely, because I'm terrible at it. Like I said, because, the beer that was 17% was never meant to be. It was meant to be a 6% ABV beer. At least that's what the kit was designed to do. What happened was I put it in its kit, and we're supposed to put it somewhere nice and warm and a little bit moist. And I thought, you know what? The attic would really, really do a great job there. Put it next to the boiler. So that's what I did. I housed it in a nice, warm, dry place that's slightly moist atmosphere. Boiler room, perfect. That's where I put it. And I accidentally forgot about it. Several months went by. It got a little bit overbrewed. And that's why it ended up being 17%. It was not deliberate. Whoopi says, Scotland has Nessie, good enough for me. Yeah, the jury's still out on Nessie as to whether the Loch Ness Monster is a real thing or not. I don't know. So we got 13 people here, and we got 3 minutes left. So we're going to wrap the show up very, very shortly. And I'm going to play out with a different song from that old album of mine, Swings on Roundabouts. And I don't think I've ever played any songs off of that record before on anything. Not a radio station, not nothing. Mostly because although the songs are good and the recordings are good, the rest of the production was not really up to my extreme high standards. At this particular point in my life, I was too busy to mix it myself because I was involved in a lot of other projects, and I was involved in probably too many things at the time. So I employed somebody else to mix it, and to be honest, I just kind of left them to it because I had too many things to do. But I gave them a deadline and said, "Look, I want all the mixes done by this time, and then I'm gonna send it off for mastering." Because really, at the time in 2013, I wasn't completely confident at mastering, and so I sent it off to a friend of mine who is an extremely good and award-winning mastering engineer, and so. Yeah, I wasn't completely happy with the record, but the songs are good. The performances on the songs are really good as well. But yeah, I wasn't completely happy with how the record turned out in the end. And so needless to say, I don't work with that mix engineer anymore because I didn't like his work. So there we go. And the mix engineer is going to remain completely safely anonymous. I wouldn't want to do that to him. I wouldn't want to name and shame him. But I mean, we don't work together anymore, but he's still a good friend of mine. And so I don't want to soil the friendship particularly. He just didn't do necessarily a particularly great job on these songs. But there it is. And sometimes that happens. And you guys are talking about something that Bobby Booth won. He won a plugin bundle from Plugin Boutique. And you had to buy something from them. Are you talking about the Ozone 8 Elements thing that you can get for like $1 or for nearly free, I think? I think that's what you're talking about. And that's awesome. yeah, Ozone 8 Elements, I think, is free from certain vendors. If you purchase something from them, you get Ozone Elements for free, which is cool. I'm just not that into it, but I know that there's a lot of people out there that are, so that is cool. Anyway, we are just about over showtime, and it's very cool, Bobby, that you got that for free, because Ozone 8 is very popular. It's pretty good stuff. It's just not something that I'm particularly into. Alright, so we are going to wrap things up there. Thank you very much to everybody who has been watching, and thank you very much to everyone that contributed a question. And so just by way of summary, by way of reminder, so I'm going to release my single on the 10th of December 2018. And if you guys are up for joining me and doing exactly the same, let's do it. I'm going to document the whole process on my YouTube channel, and I will try and be as good at documenting that as I possibly can. I'm not very good at such things, but I'm going to really try to to make this process as interesting for you guys as possible, so that, you know, we don't get to just December the 10th and the song is out. You know, I don't want to do that. I want to show you how I work a little bit, at least, you know, just a little bit of how I work, even if I can't show you the whole thing, because it'd be an extremely long video series if I did that. You know, I at least want to show you some elements of how I work out a song and how I get through that process to the finished product. So if that interests you, then let's do that. So December 10th for that deadline. If you make it, great. If you don't, that's okay too. Just make sure you release music, right? That's what this is about, and that's what I'm about, and that's what I want to do for December 10th. I want to release a song and get it out to the world. So that's what I am going to do, and I'm going to schedule it. So I need to find my next screen. Not that one. Oh dear, I've forgotten my screens. Is it that one? Yes, it's that one. So I'm going to say, you can tell I'm a pro at this, can't you? I'm going to say a very good night to everybody, and take care and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And I will see you on Wednesday over at the Songwriting Simplified show on Johnny Gibe's YouTube channel at the same time, 6 p.m. See you there, folks. Have a great night. Bye for now.
Got jaded by nightmares of snake-eyed charmers in hell blind, embracing the dark neon rain. In her mind's eye, she hears a hopeful refrain. Here's to sundown Susie, the child of the night. An after hours doozy, but now she's seen the light. Reapers no more surround her, the floodlights of such grace. Through the dark mirror she now beholds his face. Her dream fulfilled of a night riding into her life, giving her strength, expose the dark to his bright light. This grace a jailbreak, freedom from all that's ensnared. With open eyes, she hears her long for refrain. Susie, the child of the night. And after hours doozy, but now she's seen the light. The reapers no more surround her, the floodlights of such grace. Through the darkly mirror she now beholds his face. Sundown Susie, the child of the night. And after hours doozy, but now she's seen the light. The reapers no more surround her, the floodlights of such grace. Through the darkly mirror she now beholds his face. Here's to Sundown Susie, the child of the night. And after hours doozy, but now she's seen the light. The reapers no more surround her, the floodlights of such grace. Through the darkly mirror she now beholds his face.